Skender Daerti, clinical concierge expert.
Tom Hickey, MedTech sales expert.
Mike Sperduti, inside sales.
Barbara Strain, value analysis.
Scott Alexander, marketing.
All right, good day, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the MedTech Business Academy, sponsored by your MedTech experts. My name is Skender Daerti. I'm joined by my esteemed panel of Barbara, Scott, Mike, and Tom. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So in today's episode, we are going to go the cliched route for the first thing that you're supposed to do every January is you're supposed to talk about what happened last year and talk about what's coming up this year. So we're just going to follow the formula that seems to work everywhere else. So we're going to go with that. 2025, quite a boring year. Nothing happened at all. It was pretty much as everybody expected. I'm pretty sure if we went back to our 2024 year in review recording and what was to expect in 2025, we would have all nailed every prediction because it was a very predictable year in every regard. And I'm sure 2026 will be equally as predictable with nothing of surprise to come around. With that, clearly, I was speaking totally in jest. It was a rather turbulent year in many regards. That's not to say turbulent as in negative or positive. It's more of just the fact that there was change. There was a lot of change, primarily all the way at the top of the government. Anytime you have that situation, there is going to be change. To me, it felt like 2025 was an extension of what we had from the middle of 2024, when pretty much it felt like much of commerce just stopped, right? And it was a wait and see pattern to figure out what are we doing, where's the direction going, and it felt like so many wheels to commerce were just kind of waiting. And it feels like in the last month or so, there's been a little bit more movement. I don't know if people are just sick of waiting on the side and have to act or what's happening, but there's definitely been a different level of movement. But 2025, just because of the turbulence, it just felt like nobody really wanted to stick their neck out there. You didn't want to get caught, right? Because you never knew which way the winds were going to blow. Tom, you're nodding. Is that what you felt too?
Yeah, there's so many moving parts going on last year, with the political landscape, and tariffs and supply shortages and AI coming into play more and more. There are just so many things that were going on that I think affected everything from operational efficiency to overwhelming supply chain with innovation and new products. And there was so much going on. I agree. It was very difficult, I think, for a lot of folks, both at the provider level as well as the supplier level, to figure out what do we do.
Yeah. I think that was the big thing is question marks. What do we do? Right.
Right.
And clearly that permeated even into the provider world, right? It wasn't just suppliers. It was, and it came from every which end. I think everybody thought that the Asia Pacific region was going to be the most impacted, and we saw a lot of impact throughout Europe too, which caught a lot of people by surprise with its veracity and created even more challenges. But Barbara, how about you? What did you see in 25?
Yeah, so on the provider side, you open that door a little bit there. It was really hard to stabilize because where was the money you were going to save coming from when you were now spending it or seeing on your invoices, service charges, certain fees, that sort of thing, and they changed all the time. So it was very difficult to get your handle on dollars. There was great margin movement, though, into the positive. You saw it tracking so that hate to keep talking about those COVID years, but it tracked back to probably just before COVID levels and things. So the margin was there, but how were we going to spend it as providers? Were we going to invest it into expanding, M&As? Were we going to spend it doing, finishing out hospitals or separate surgery centers? Or were we going to keep our money and tight and close to the vest and really make sure that we had such high value, um, either equipment, procedures, et cetera, going on until we let go of that money? And so that does affect the supplier community as well.
Scott, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think to some degree it's the same story that we've had since 2020. Like things were turbulent. I think on the supplier side, we saw tariffs really having a significant issue. I think just sort of the turbulence that has been going on in the supplier community, we still sort of feel those ripples. And yeah, I mean, I think Barbara, you put it well. What we're seeing is the fact of the matter is there's not the same amount of clarity around the ability, like what are you going to do and how do you prioritize things? There's a lot more sort of churn inside health systems about what's the number one priority, what's the number two priority, and like just struggling to get to completion, I think is one of the bigger challenges that they're running into. So, it's just kind of a turbulent time for everybody.
Yeah. Mike?
So what we saw was a continuation from the year before, but it actually getting worse. And that is between the labor shortages and the budget cuts, it's really putting deal flow, it's making deal flow harder to get in front of, right? Get in front of sales ready opportunities, in front of deals that are going to go through. And what we're seeing is that companies haven't adjusted their prospecting and lead flow, right? So if it's harder to get opportunities, you have to do more prospecting, right? You have to do the hard work of digging to find them. And nobody liked prospecting before. Typically, inside sales, we're starting to embrace it with the MedTech world, but we're still not there in terms of the way it needs to be, in terms of the outbound vigor. And the number of outbounds that you need to do has to increase in order to compensate to find the deals that are out there. So I think, we're going to face the same thing coming in this year. And I think, my advice to everybody listening is look at your pipeline. And if it didn't work last year, it's not going to work this year. And this year will be tough. So you should be increasing your pipeline to compensate for what's going on.
I think just to build on that, sorry, Tom, but one of the things to build on that, Mike, is, we're trying to push our clients more and more towards educational marketing, because what we're having to do is we're having to educate prospects about a given product or service and why they should do it and that sort of thing to build up that pipeline. Because to your point, the number of like come in the door ready to buy opportunities is down from what we've seen historically. So you have to go and sort of build the market. So.
And I would actually add on to that as well, to extend it into one of my areas, and that's the independent sales rep world. I see the same thing going on there, where a reluctance to do the prospecting that Mike was talking about. It's harder to do. It's harder to find that right individual. It seems like there's more speed bumps in terms of getting to where you need to be. But to tag on to what you're saying, Scott, I think that educational marketing also comes into educational sales prospecting, right? To make sure your sales team has the right educational and ammunition with studies and outcomes to help make that transaction of here's the information and here's why it's important. And I think there's definitely a gap there. And I think to Mike's point, it widened last year.
And Tom, I'm going to piggyback on you now, because I think, when we're talking about prospecting, right, not only are we doing not enough of it and we need to do more, but we have to get smarter, in which we shouldn't be looking at it really as prospecting. We should be looking at it as, I want to have a meaningful conversation with the key influencers of the products that I sell at a facility, so I know what's going on inside that account. I know relative to my device, right? So I want to know the age of the device. I want to know, are they in the market? I want to know when they'll be in the market. And I want to catalog that information, right? So if I know if I'm selling a device that has a 10-year replacement cycle, I want to call, I want to find out what device they have, I want to find out how old is it, and catalog that information. So now I'm reacting to it at the right time. So no doesn't mean NO necessarily. It means no, KNOW, when I need to, what I need to do in order to get the account.
So I'll piggyback on all of you.
Yeah.
Lots of piggyback
So-
going on.
And lots of piggybacking. The thing of it is to all your points, when that connection is made, when you finally get to the individual or whatever at those organizations, you got to lead with the right value message. Because it's not of, hey, I have this and I don't even know anything about your organization, but you probably need what I have. You got to have and talk the talk about why you made the product. Why is it valuable to someone? And then you have to keep adding on to that messaging until you get to the part of they say, we're not looking right now. We don't have the right individuals to do those procedures. Whatever the answer is, clinically, financially, or operational wise, but you've got to have the right message and listen.
You know what I saw, Barbara, in line with that is, and it's 90% rooted in reality and 10% leveraging the circumstances, is I saw more alignment between the clinical realm and the supply chain realm this year than ever before. It's because I think supply chain did a really good job of expressing to the clinical side, hey, these tariffs could kill us. So I get it. You just want to buy this one thing, but guess what? That one thing could spike on us by 90% tomorrow with this tariff, right? And so what I saw, and it's the thing that supply chain and value analysis has been striving for since, Adam and Eve were out there, right? In the clinical world, in the hospital world, but it felt like 2025 was finally, again, 90% reality, 10% leveraging the story, but it felt like there was more alignment on that front than ever before, right? There wasn't so much of a physician just going rogue and be like, this is what I want, right?
Right.
And I'm going to buy it at all costs. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way.
I'm going to piggyback on that and say yes. I mean, I think this is a trend that's been in place for at least 10 years and will only continue on, which is this sort of merging and trust building data, power sharing between the providers, like the clinicians and the operational folks. Like, yeah, we're seeing it come into play in a way that it never really has in broad scale. And I think if I'm running a medical device company or I'm running the commercial side of a med device company, what I'm thinking about now is how do I make sure that I'm approaching not just the clinical, but also the financial and operational decision makers so that I win and my competitors lose. Because there's absolutely this separation between the people that get it and the people that don't. And, yes, it's more work. And yes, it's, not what I had to do back in 2010. But the truth of the matter is that's the expectation now. And whereas it's optional today, tomorrow it will be required. And if you're not sort of planting the seeds, organizationally, you're not going to be able to make that transition when it's absolutely required.
I see it
And
manifesting
also-
itself in one other area too, and to change maybe the direction slightly, and that's in the investor community. I talk to a lot of CEOs right now, and the investor community has gotten very cautious, especially through 2025, with a lot of this background noise that we've already covered. But for early stage companies, right, when you're trying to go from angel to Series A, for instance, in terms of your fundraising, it's a heavy lift, and you've got to have many of those same components in place when you're talking to the investor community. They want to know, hey, have you had a proof of concept? What kind of studies do you have? What kind of clinical outcomes? So it's really much right down Barbara Strain's lane in terms of that value analysis documentation has to be in place even earlier than what you might think.
Yeah.
Because when you go to talk to the investor community, they're looking for all of those items along with other key components of their due diligence. But they want to know you've done your homework before they bring their checkbook.
Unless you
Yeah, I
say
have a
AI
couple of-
in your title, then
Right.
you can say
Yeah.
anything, right?
Right.
Got a couple clients who in that realm of funding is they're getting hammered a lot for all of that inflammation. So it starts way back. And we've been talking about that now for 3 years or so on this podcast. And I think if people are seeing it, getting their eyes opened, that's really, really true.
Yeah.
I do think
Mike, you've been waiting in the wings.
Been trying to get in because, Barbara and Tom were saying some really good stuff, and I just wanted to amplify it because it's so important. It's funny because Scott and I had the conversation yesterday as we were talking about a client. And
Yep.
right now, well, as Tom was talking about, what do investors want to hear? What does the chief nursing officer want to hear? Right. So let's go to the chief nursing officer, right? You call that chief nursing officer right now, and you're trying to sell your product. What is he or she really hearing is, boy, is this going to take time for me to implement? How hard is this going to be to change? Right? I don't have the time for this, is what they're going to be. So one of your key messages early on in that conversation, if you wanted that conversation to move, is you got to let them feel very comfortable. We understand time is an issue, and we're going to give you time back. That's a message that'll resonate. So I think we have to understand not what we want to say, but what do they want to hear, because it's going to help them and give them the answers that they're looking for.
So the phrase that I heard more frequently than others, and I'd never heard it before this year, was the phrase of conversion fatigue. Right? Everybody was chasing higher margins on the provider side. So they started looking at every new product, every category, trying to get new. Meanwhile, the CNO was like, my team can't handle all that we have to do, plus new. Stop. I get it. You're trying to save a nickel here and a couple of dollars there by going with the new, but we just can't do it anymore. Right. And conversion fatigue in 2025 became a real thing.
I think implementation killed more deals than ever last year in terms of just, we like it, but implementation is going to be a problem.
Yeah. Well, I first heard conversion fatigue in 1998.
Wow.
Yeah.
And before some of you were born, no. But it's a real thing. And you have to know exactly what's going on in your hospital organization and to know when you have a window of time. And that's why value analysis is constructed with this executive committee oversight who understands and knows those things and can help you navigate when you should be working on certain things, and maybe you're not even working on the right things and helping, internally. So it's, to Mike's point, is you've got to understand how things are working in each of those organizations, because it's just not an open checkbook and open doors that, oh yeah, we want to change everything we're doing, because if you keep doing that, you're not going to get anywhere.
And that's why so much marketing and sales falls flat, is you're speaking to an audience. It's one message is trying to get to everybody the same way. And that world has left a long time ago. People want to understand, you know my situation, you know the issues that I'm facing, and you've actually helped somebody in my exact same situation, the size of my hospital, size of the department, the exact variables are all the same, and you can demonstrate you've helped somebody else solve my problem. That's going to be a completely different received call than, hi, my name's Mike, I want to talk to you about my product or service.
And don't you think the smart companies are already thinking about that in the sense of maybe they've got application specialists, or maybe they've thought about those workflow issues, and if you can bring that up front, going, hey, we understand the challenges here. Here's how we resolve it. It's probably not going to solve everything, but it's going to help, I think, the credibility of that company to go, hey, we've thought about some of this, and we're here to try to help.
Scott, you've been waiting patiently. Go ahead, Scott.
Very patiently. Very patiently. So I think to build on that, what we see is it's priority stacking. This idea of like conversion fatigue and all this stuff. It's no longer a matter of like, can you save me $1, $1 million, or whatever, but it's, okay, how does that benefit compare to other things? Because the pipeline is only so big.
Yes.
You have to be the most valuable thing to get through that. And I think to become the most valuable thing, you either have a tremendous amount of value, which you should have anyway, but like we have the bigger dollars, or you're reducing the friction to implement. And this goes back to Mike, what you and Barbara were saying, is is it needs to be easy for people. We've done this before. We know exactly what we're doing. We got a playbook and some SOPs, and we did this last Wednesday. We're gonna do it for you today. And when you walk out of here, you're not even know that we were there. Like that sort of simplicity is what people are looking for, as much as the total value created for that opportunity or that provider. So
Yeah, I agree. Well, I want to convert to switch for the rest of the time talking to 2026 and uh happier, better. I don't know if they're happier or better. Who knows what times they're going to be, but they're going to be different times, right? But before we do that, let's play a little game and try to pin each of you into a corner because unlike myself, who's very short-worded in everything I say, I'm going to ask you long-winded individuals to try to give in 5 words or less, the final lesson learned from 2025, and then we're going to go to 2026. 5 words or less. Try to get it. Who wants to go first? There you go, Mike.
Prospect more or die.
Like it. Great lesson.
I'll go. Make it as easy as possible on your client.
Oh, that's a good one.
Do your homework well.
Like it, Barbara.
I'm going to say less signal, more noise.
Oh, that's abstract. Let's hear
Right?
it.
Right? Marketing
Yeah,
guy.
wow, the marketing guy coming in from left field. Let's hear it. Scott,
Yeah.
what does that
Leave it up
mean?
to the marketing guy to come up with a 5-second title to keep on going. Good job,
See?
Scott.
See? This is not my first time around,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I think more signal, less noise, or sorry, less signal, more noise. It's just everything's more chaotic. Everybody, like what we need to do and what providers are trying to make decisions around, like there's just more noise and it's hard to pick out what are the things that are really going to move their business forward. And I think that's why we're seeing sales pipelines slow down. We're seeing the job get harder, is there's just too much noise and we got to figure out how to cut through it.
Love it. That's a great point. All right, so let's traverse here to 2026. 2026, we as we record this, we're January 9 into the new year, right? Already things are happening, moving and shaking. What are the predictions? What are the things that we're thinking are going to happen? Is this going to be just another turbulent year? Is it going to be different turbulence? Is it going to be the same turbulence? What do we think? Barbara, you're laughing.
Yeah, different, turbulent, some of the same and different.
Okay.
So my big thing is I've been paying attention the last like 2 months of the 2025 and so is that CMS came out with every new program they could possibly think of that is going to affect reimbursement, but it's also going to affect where care is given. And if you've got product or services that are only for inpatient and not telehealth or home health or outpatient or doctor's offices or whatever it is, CMS has so many reimbursement programs that first your providers that you're calling on has to figure out which lanes they're in. So their CMS is trying to get you off of the fee for service
Mm.
and on to value-based care by putting all these carrots out at the end of the pole for you to sort of chase as a provider. So it's like, who is getting paid and how are they getting paid? And that's a big turn for the providers, but the suppliers are going to get hit by that depending on what their lanes are and if they're not paying attention to this and talking those terms to those providers when they go and call on them.
I like it. Yeah, I think that's if the CMS upheaval is going to be a major theme this year because I think coding everything is going to be
Everything. And
uh,
then you talk rural health. We finally got the $50 billion by state. You've got telehealth. You've got GLPs now going to pill type. I mean, you've got Medicaid economics. $1 trillion over the next 10 years going to be lost to these providers. I mean, it's a churn. So but you've got to keep doing what you're currently doing, but planning while you're doing it. So it's almost like you're flying two planes at the same time and
yeah,
trying to get them focused.
I mean, I don't think it's
Go ahead, Scott.
I don't think it's that different than what we've been seeing over the past 5 years, right? I mean, like, yeah, I think it's going to be every bit as turbulent as 2025 was. It's going to be different things. We got midterm elections and all the hootenanny that's causing. We've got all these kinds of issues that are coming up. But I think even with that, even with all the noise and the churn and that sort of thing, at the end of the day, you I'm going to quote I'm going to take Nick Saban's advice and share with everybody. You just got to do your job. Like, you got to be heads down. It's about executing on the field, right? Understand what you're doing. None of this stuff is is new, right? It's just that it's not unique. It's just uncommon. You have to make sure that you're identifying how do you fit into your customers' world. You got to be able to talk to the multiple decision makers in a way that gets them interested in leaning forward. You got to be more valuable than the next opportunity, and you have to make it easy for them to adopt. And so I think there's going to be a lot of noise. I mean, everything that you described, Barbara, any one of those things is transformative to healthcare. And you mentioned like 7. So I think we're absolutely seeing the wave breaking against the shore with all these initiatives that have been coming on. And you got to live with it or go pick another industry, because like this is what it is to be in medtech and healthcare today. So I didn't mean to put such a negative slant on it. My apologies, but
yeah. Somebody say something positive.
Yeah, I can say something positive. But to springboard off of that, I was thinking of the word immersion when Scott was talking, because the successful suppliers are going to be the ones that can immerse themselves into their clinical lane, whatever that might be, and really get that empathy for what's going on with their customer, and then be able to transact that into either features or opportunities with their product and be able to explain it. And that's going to, really require that Nick Saban quote of doing your job, digging in, and it's not glamorous, it's not sexy. In matter of fact, it might even be a little boring. But those that do that will, I think, have a much better 2026 than those that are trying to chase that shiny object.
What do you say, Mike?
I just keep thinking about tough times. The cream rises to the top. If you're good at what you do, this is the time that you want. If you're good in sales, you're going to be valued a lot more. If you're good in marketing, you're going to be valued a lot more. So the folks that are good at what they do get recognized a lot more. And so for the folks that are working for people out there, if you're good at what you do, you have your pick of the litter on where to work, because there's just not that many great people out there. And for us that are hiring people and managing people, we better be recruiting very well and bringing in top talent and getting rid of folks that don't perform, because every second that goes by that we allow the organization to be weak, we put our shareholders at risk.
Mike, I was just talking with a CEO this morning. We're talking about how do we turn the C players into B players and the B players into A players, right? And it's trying to, help them help themselves, right?
Yeah.
And really, that's honestly, I've heard that before and used to try it. But it's the most ridiculous. Trying to make somebody something that they're not is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so what we should be looking for is, like, I'll take my world, inside sales. Most people hate it. It's a ridiculous, repetitive, boring job. I love it. There are my people like it. Why? Because we know that if we put in the work and we differentiate ourselves, we're going to be revenue generators and we're going to be valuable, right? So if the people who embrace that job, they're going to do a lot better at it than somebody that just takes the job because I need a job. So we have to engage people based on who they are and what their strengths and weaknesses are and what their passions are, and align them up with our organizational goals.
I think a horse always runs at its own speed. That's a quote from my older brother, who owns a pecan orchard. But very hometown stuff. But the truth of the matter is, like, a horse is going to run at its own speed. So an A player is always an A player, whatever organization you put him in. A B is a B and a C is a C. And you can't make a horse run faster than it's going to want to go over the long term. And so I think it's about finding people that fit in your organization and are A players in your organization. The other thing, because I don't think I'm not the doom and gloom guy. Maybe I am, and I just don't realize it. But I think, Mike, to your point, the truth of the matter is, if you do what needs to be done excellently, you are going to win an outsized percent of the pie, right? If you as a company have figured out how to talk to what your product or service is, how it ties into the clinical, financial, operational, and IT related decision makers inside a health system, and you tell that story appropriately, you're going to crush everybody. And this is different. And here's what we see. And again, we've got enough clients so we can see, who's adjusting and who isn't. The companies that realize that understand that they have to spend more up front to be able to do things. So they're spending more on their P&L in sales and marketing than they have in the past. And it's a different spend. It's not just hiring more Randy's the rep. It's about investing in education, that sort of thing. But the ROI that they get off of it is substantially higher because they're differentiating themselves as a real player in that space, whatever that space is. And I hear it all the time that people are like, we're different. And my answer is, not in the eyes of your customer. Unless you're telling the story appropriately, nobody knows that you are any different. So you have to make those investments. And if you do, you will be successful at a high level, probably even more than you have in the past. You just have to do the work.
And to wrap
Yes.
the bow around that, it's really what we're saying is you've got to know how to make and keep relationships. And the way you do that, it's just like, you might be standing in line at a line or something like that, and you start talking to the person next to you, and you realize that you might have a connection, and then you start, talking to them, and you work through that, but you become, in a relationship with these folks. And that's what's really important. And that's what the value analysis folks like to cultivate are these relationships because you don't know when you might need to call on these folks. And so they need to be there and you all need to be there. So it's this kumbaya moment or thing.
So
And there's
Barbara,
one thing I wanted to say. I've been holding this back now for about 5 days when I came up with it, and we only barely mentioned it. But my little thing I was going to say is AIAIO, like EIEIO, is there's so much of that going on. But if you do it correctly, you don't have to invest a lot of money, but if you don't know how to funnel all that and do it correctly, it costs a lot. It's not free like you just sit at your computer and, put something in. But we haven't done that yet about 2026. But anyway.
so what I wanted to talk about, you just triggered me, was relationships. Is building a relationship today the same way that you built a relationship years ago?
No.
No.
Completely different, right? How we engage, how we approach, how we like to be communicated to, how we maintain the relationship. I think that's a fascinating conversation because I do think we're relating differently. And a lot of older people are relating the way that older people like to relate. The younger people like to relate differently. And so I think it's not only knowing your market and knowing your product, but it's going back to selling, which is knowing people. And building relationship means you really look at the other side's perspective and you morph yourself and understand that you're dealing with different people, and every conversation needs to be crafted differently, every letter needs to be crafted differently, every relationship needs to be managed differently.
I mean, there's tectonic shifts happening everywhere, right? I mean, I'm sure at minimum, the five of us on this call have traversed 50% of their search to an AI platform rather than just Googling it, right? The old adage of Google it isn't there as much anymore. You may have Googled something this week, but you probably spent equal time putting it into a chatbot,
And
right?
fact for you, Google searches are up. Um,
Oh,
yeah, consistently. What we're seeing is Chat GPT searches are additional to what we're seeing on Google,
right.
and they're different. So you're getting sort of deeper broader questions, and then people are going to Google for more transactional things. So,
I use Google as the check and balance,
yeah.
right? So I'll typically go to Chat GPT or Gemini first,
Mhm.
and then as a kind of a confirmation, then I'll go
Yep,
to Google,
exactly.
right? So they kind of happen synchronously
Mhm.
in that regard.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, so either which way, there's a tectonic shift that's happening in some capacity, and the whole world has to adjust. And the thing that I take the most for 2026 is that tectonic shift, and all this change is just going to happen at a more frequent basis, right?
Mhm.
It's going to happen faster. It's going to happen in ways that we aren't prepared for. And I think if your general skill set isn't doesn't have the term adaptation at its core, you're going to get lost this year, probably more than even previous years,
Yeah.
because it's going to happen even faster. And we're seeing it. Like you said, the younger community is only getting older, right? They're
Mhm.
catching up to us. And, so from that perspective, right, their ways, their thinking is going to change. And there's going to be people that are just going to get pushed out. Right. I see it all the time. Some of the people that I came up in the industry who I thought were the best salespeople ever, when I talk to them now, they look like they're stuck. They look like they're caught. They look like they're confused because the whole world shifted on them
Mhm.
and they can't make the same impact. And these are stellar performers, right? These are the people that we used to laud and they'd be on the stage at everything, right? And even their clients would say, Johnny is the best sales rep ever. Johnny right now is struggling and his skill set hasn't adapted. And that's what I think is going to happen in 2026. This could be the year where we leave more people in the dirt than we ever have in the past. And then there's going to be those, like you said, Mike, this is going to be a big differentiator year for that cream to rise. And it's only a small percentage, right? The cream is only the froth that comes up top. It's not the whole liquid that comes up there, right? There's going to be a lot of people that are there. So I think that's
And
really, really important.
the funny thing about AI is, everybody's, oh, you got to use AI, and everybody is using it now. But AI is just like Facebook, and it's just like Instagram, and it's just like inside sales. Everybody can do it and everybody can use it. But if
Mhm.
you're going to ChatGPT and saying, I have a prospect and I want to sell him and I sell lab equipment, write a letter that's going to get me an appointment. Everybody's doing that, right? And that's
Mhm.
that one size fits all piece of garbage that is not with a relationship in mind and relating to them at all. It's just, and there's just a lot of that people thinking, well, I use AI, and that's ridiculous. What you're doing is just putting a bunch of garbage out into the universe. Whereas the folks that are using AI the right way and making it an extension of themselves, it's their mind, it's their words, it's just sharper and more deeper and just better and refined, those are the people that are doing well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. So we're at the top of our time here. We've imparted a ton of wisdom. I don't even know if the audience can account for all the wisdom that they were just showered with. But trust me, it was a lot. Yes, yes, there was a lot of that, Barbara. Absolutely. We made it rain on everybody. So if you should play this at half speed so you catch it all, right? Don't play it at 1.5 speed. Slow it down, take it in. This is going to set up your success for 2026. But really excited for this. So with that, let's give our parting shots. Who wants to go first?
Ladies
I'll go
first.
first.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Basically, is from taking what you just said, is hopefully we've imparted at least one new, fresh thing or something you need to refresh yourself on, educate on it, and learn what that is to make the right relationship.
Love it. Scott.
Yeah. I think expect turbulence. Do what you know you need to do, and you will stand out above the competition.
Love it. Tom.
Uh, Growth isn't going to be as dynamic as it's been the last couple of years. I think we're going to see economically a little more of a shallow curve this year. So the theme is what we've been talking about, the cream's got to rise to the top because it's going to be a little tougher sledding than it's been the last couple of years.
Love it, Mike.
This is going to be the tale of two stories. Either you're going to be the type of person that's the get to person, which is I get to prospect, I get to do my value analysis. I'm in love with my job, and because I'm in love with it, I do it really well. And those people are going to be the winners versus the got to people. I got to make that phone call. I got to go to work. It's like a chore. One person, it's a function. If you're a function person, I do my job function. Those people are going bye-bye. The people that do their jobs with purpose are the people that are going to dominate the future, and it starts this year.
Good Lord, that was like some Socrates stuff right
I
there, Mike.
mean,
I don't
I'm
even
ready to
know
go
how
take the
to.
hill, man. Let's do this.
Man, I don't even know how to top that. That's crazy. That was impressive. The only thing I've got is, plan for the worst, hope for the best. Kind of piggybacking on everything everybody said there, right? Hope is not a strategy. And if you go into 2026 hoping that it's going to change, but like Scott said, plan for that turbulence because that's going to be the only consistent piece right there. So let's go get them. 2026, as with everything, there's opportunity all around. It's about who's going to take advantage of it and make the move. Adapt or die, as always. Thank you, everybody. Great conversation. Looking forward to more imparting of wisdom on future calls in 2026. Please tune in to your MedTech experts. Thank you again from the MedTech Business Academy. Happy New Year.
And as always, like, subscribe, and
Thank
share
you.
with a friend.
Like it. Thank you.
Nice save, Scott.
You like
Yeah.
that?
Good job.
Co-host.
Yeah.